little busier this week in the screening room. It was pretty quiet
was
last week as we get into 2026 with the new movies, and we've got a few for this week's screening room. And welcome to it. She is Hope Madden.
He's George Wolf.
And we are from MaddWolf.com, and let's start off with the new one from director Bradley Cooper.
First up in theaters, as his marriage unravels, Alex faces middle age and divorce, seeking new purpose in the New York comedy scene. Meanwhile, his wife Tess confronts sacrifices made for their family, forcing them to navigate co-parenting and identities in Is This Thing On?
Yeah, I think you mentioned in the written review that this seems a little dialed down for director Bradley Cooper. He has gone, and he's been a great director.
He has been.
But he is
Oscar nominated.
Sort of big. He's gone with big.
Yeah.
Maestro was a big swing. Loved that. Of course, A Star Is Born.
Yep.
And he goes a little bit dialed down this time, and also for acting, because he does take a small role, but it's not the lead role.
No. He's Will Arnett's stoner brother. And it's a funny role for him because you almost forget that he sort of came up in comedies and, because he's done so many dramas in the last decade or so. So it's kind of fun to see him do a comedic role. And Will Arnett is married to Laura Dern. They've been married for 20 years and they just decide they got to call it quits. Nobody's been unfaithful. There's not really any big, they're just done. And, it's, I think one of the things that makes this film work for me is that all of the performances and the direction and everything is very, very naturalistic, very honest. Yeah. Laura Dern, of course, glorious, as she always is. And the other thing I liked about it, of course, Will Arnett's character goes on after the split up to discover that he, rather than go to therapy, he becomes a stand-up comic.
Yeah.
And so he just sort of airs his grievances as jokes. And I thought that played out pretty well. But I also loved that Laura Dern's character was not the typical sort of put upon, supportive wife / ex-wife. She was edgy. She was a little angry. She was funny. She had her own stuff to do. And of course, the performance was great.
Oh, yeah. And Will Arnett actually co-wrote this with Bradley Cooper and Mark Chappelle. And yeah, it is funny because Will Arnett's character, he only gets into stand-up comedy because he didn't want to pay a cover charge.
That's right.
And so they're not going to give him pay a cover charge if he's a performer that night. So
open mic,
open mic night. And obviously it doesn't go very well that first night though, but he just keeps coming back and he falls in with a crowd of comedians. Amy Sedaris is one of them, which is great.
It is great.
And they know that he's not very good, of course, at first, but there's something about him. He's just airing his feelings as he's going through this divorce, which is painful to him. And really the only thing to me that didn't really feel authentic about it was how quickly he got good at stand-up comedy. Because if you've ever been to an open mic night or seen some amateur comedians, it's hard. Really it's a hard thing to do. And I give anyone credit who goes up there on an open mic night, because we've been to a few, and they can be cringy. They can also be very good. You can find somebody that, oh man, you should keep at this. But so he gets good pretty quickly. Other than that, it does feel very lived in. And of course, even as he gets better, the rest of the people in his orbit don't know he's doing it.
No.
He keeps this on the down low.
And it's a great ensemble.
Oh, it is.
His parents are funny. It's Kieran Hines and
I know. Blanken, who plays his mom. But you've got
Christine Ebersol.
Yeah.
Plays his mom, and they're great. Andra Day plays his sister-in-law. She's funny. She's mean. Yeah. She's funny. And
Sean Hayes pops up.
Just for a second.
And master thespian Peyton Manning in an actual acting role.
Yeah.
I know.
It's kind of crazy.
I know. It's all right.
It was
fine. It's all right. But
fine.
Yeah, mainly it's about these two leads and their chemistry as a couple that has drifted apart. And why is that? And are they allowed to have their own lives? And how much of that contributed to their breakup?
Yeah.
The fact that they have to have their own space and their own thing, like maybe comedy. Like he didn't know he needed it, and it turns out that he does need it. And
because he won't go to therapy.
No. That's the old adage, right? They'll do anything to avoid therapy, even getting on stage. But it does feel very real, and Bradley Cooper does provide the comic relief in a funny way, and it's directed very carefree, very breezy. You can get the feeling that there was definitely some improv going on that seems only right. They
Yeah.
just kind of let it flow. That's the air it gives off. But it's a real adult,
Yeah.
funny
Yeah.
type of drama. It's not laugh out loud,
No.
even though it's about a comedian. But it's warm and it's witty, and I
Yeah.
think it has some insight. And anybody looking for an adult drama, something that's not maybe going for a big blockbuster superhero this or whatever, or a lot of blood spilling, that's not your bag. I think this will definitely satisfy.
Yeah.
It's been out in select theaters now for a few weeks. In
Yeah.
fact, we've been holding off
Yeah.
on reviewing it. We saw it a while ago, but we were holding off because now this week it gets a wide rollout.
Yeah.
And I think it's one that people will appreciate.
Yeah. I liked it.
Yeah, and I definitely think it's a good breakthrough as an actor for Will Arnett. I mean, we've seen him do sitcoms. Of course, he does voice work.
Yeah.
But he's impressive here.
Yeah, he is impressive. And, most of his scenes, are opposite Laura Dern, who's brilliant. I mean, so to be able to go toe to toe with her and really come out shining is pretty impressive, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I liked it as a change of pace for Cooper as a director, because
I did too.
It's not that sort of hardcore precise, it's very sort of breezy and carefree. And I thought it was a nice change up for him.
Yeah. And you got the feeling in his performance that he was having a ball doing that.
Yeah.
Just taking the back seat a little bit and just getting into this
dumbass
character. Yeah, he is, man. Yeah, it's funny. So yeah, we both enjoyed that. I'm glad it's getting a wider rollout now. Hopefully find an audience. And it is called Is This Thing On?
Also in theaters, a group of friends' tropical vacation turns into a terrifying primal tale of horror and survival in Primate.
Now, I know we say a lot that we recommend seeing movies in the theater because we love that. But here's one, excuse me, that I think will really benefit your enjoyment of it, because I think this is one that the audiences in the theater are going to like a lot better than we did or a lot of critics did. I think that's going to add to it because you can pretty much tell by the trailer if this is something up your alley. It's set around this group of mainly young 20-somethings, and there's one teenager, and they're at this beautiful, oh my Lord, this beautiful hillside house / compound in Hawaii, where this pet chimp has been, Ben was being taught to communicate through this advanced linguistics. And then we're not going to tell you why the chimp goes berserk. You may be able to figure it out, but the chimp goes berserk. Ben starts spilling some blood, and there's a lot of blood spilled, and it earns its R rating. And that's the thing that jumped out at me, because I think this film has a feel of what I would call high school horror.
Yeah.
Like a PG-13 high school horror full of jump scares, but not that much blood. Right. So this feels like that, but they up the blood spilling.
Oh, they surely do.
They really do. Yeah. To get that R rating. And if you're going to get the R rating, you might as well go for it.
Yeah, they go for it.
Yeah, they do.
I think some of the carnage is kind of inspired, but it's for sure gory. It's it gets pretty nasty, and I don't think the story is stupid, but the behavior of the kids, of the humans, is pretty stupid.
But movies like this are driven by stupid choices by adults and kids, and they certainly make they certainly make some here. And if you're thinking, as we did, like 2 seconds after the trailer, oh, this is Gordy from Nope meets Cujo. You're on the right track. You are.
It is.
And some of the it's directed by the same guy that did the first 2 47 Meters Down films.
Johan
Roberts, yeah. And
he does a lot of creature features.
And Strangers Pray at Night, I believe he did as well. Yeah, so he's back with another creature feature. And I think some of the direction is pretty obvious. The jump scares are telegraphed a lot. You can tell what's coming. Yeah. The effects and the effects are practical, which we always appreciate. And that means if you have a murderous chimp, it's not going to be CGI. It's going to be a guy in a suit, and it is. Yeah. I think that goes up and down. There are times when it's quite impressive. Yeah. There are other times when it's pretty evident.
Yeah.
But it would be awful hard. You think of the movies like the Planet of the Apes series that was so impressive with the CGI. I think the kind of gore that's involved here would be tough to do with the CGI.
Oh, and I think the cost would be prohibitive.
Yeah, exactly. So I think
it's fine.
It is. It's fine. There are just a couple times when like, oh, that's pretty evident. But the suit work is fine, and we always love, like I said, practical effects.
Mm-hmm.
And there are at least a couple of very effective set pieces. One of the side characters, one of the girl's dads.
Yeah, the homeowner.
Yeah, is played by Troy Kotzer from Coda, who's deaf. And his character is away for a while at a conference where he's an author, he's signing books. But then they work him back in, and because he's deaf, they have some nice fun with something going on behind him that he can't see because it's behind him, and he can't hear because he's deaf. And it's we can see and hear it all.
Yeah,
so,
that was nice. Yeah. It was well set up for horror.
Yeah, it was. And then there's a scene that is sort of like even more reminiscent of Cujo, because it's a character trying to get to the safety of a car.
Right.
That is pretty
darkly funny.
Darkly funny, and some nice tension about it as well. Yeah. So there are certainly moments. We didn't love it, but I can definitely see where audiences may give this a nice word of mouth. It could be a fun time at the theater. I definitely get that. And I'm for anything that makes bucks at the theater. So I'm all for it. I didn't think it was great. And some of the acting by the young performers, not the greatest. And some of the writing, the dialogue. But we're here for the chimp, right? We're here for the chimp and the bloodshed.
There is a chimp, and there is plenty of bloodshed.
That's right. So it can be a fun time in the theater, even though it's not a great film. And that is Primate, and it's in theaters now.
Next up, the surviving Garrity family must leave the safety of the Greenland bunker and embark on a perilous journey across the decimated frozen wasteland of Europe to find a new home. Greenland 2, Migration.
So the guy that narrated that just said Greenland, but it's really Greenland, right? In the news lately, by the way, this has nothing to do with that.
No. Or anybody's desire to migrate to Greenland.
Right.
No. So, and if you haven't seen Greenland, the first one, 5 years ago.
A lot of people did, because we've got a sequel. We had no idea.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Gerard Butler, it's January, and that means that there is a new Gerard Butler movie. And he is the king. I mean, I really admire this in him, because he produces most of his films. They're, like mid-budget actioners. They always come out in January when there's very little competition, and obviously they make enough money that he can make one the next year. And I admire that. And then in February, it's always Jason Statham.
I remember about 5 years ago, it happened with The Den of Thieves, which I really enjoyed. And then it got a sequel that was really bad.
Yeah.
But Greenland.
I think that was last year's sequel that we did not like. And this one, and it's one of the movies where Gerard Butler is not playing really the tough guy. He's playing like a big old softy, and that's nice. He's a dad. And in the first film, there has been a comet, and it's made most of the planet Earth unlivable. And so Gerard Butler's family and some other people, they are in this bunker underground. Well, now 5 years later, tectonic plate movement, bunker is no longer safe. The air is somewhat more breathable. They've heard a rumor that where the impact of the comet was, that it's sort of a little paradise, and you can breathe the air, and there's fresh water. And so they need to make it there. They decided to get there, even though there is the south of France, and they are in Greenland, and it's post-apocalypse. So getting from A to B is hard. And that's the
can't
journey.
Call an Uber.
No. So that's the journey, and they get into this sort of little dinghy sort of a situation to try to cross the ocean in it. So there's a lot of havoc there, and then they get to Europe, and there's some civil unrest, and there's thugs, and there's marauders, and I feel like it might have been more compelling. It's a really wholesome, kind film, and that I don't think the post-apocalypse is going to be that kind, honestly. And there were just too many instances where they weren't cautious enough as humans. They got out and picnicked at one point. I'm like, what? Naturally, something bad happens. But the movie is very inoffensive. I can't imagine it offending anybody. It seems like it goes out of its way not to. But what's nice is that the whole film's theme is basically the world is awful. Can't we just be nice to each other? And I thought, yeah, I like that. I buy that. Let's do it. Let's do it, Gerard. So it's not great. it's he's working with Rick Roman Waugh, who he almost every January does a movie with this guy. And you know, it's pretty bland. It's very meh. It's whatever.
Yeah, you could do worse and have for January.
Yeah.
And a co-star is Morena Baccarin.
Yeah.
Right. Well, was she in the first one?
She was.
Okay.
Yeah. She plays his wife.
Yeah. So the family is back. So yeah, Greenland 2, Migration is out. That's your January Gerard Butler. Stay tuned for February Jason Statham.
That's right.
But that one is in theaters now.
Next is the latest from Jim Jarmusch. Estranged siblings reunite after years apart, forced to confront unresolved tensions and reevaluate their strained relationships with their emotionally distant parents. It's father, mother, sister, brother.
3 coolest human beings ever to come from Ohio. Chrissy Hynde, obviously, LeBron James,
Jim Jarmusch, one of our favorite filmmakers. Even though we fully realize some of his more eclectic films can be challenging for audiences, even for us. A film like, say, The Limits of Control.
Yeah, I think that's the only one we didn't love.
Glacially paced. Let's put it that way.
But this is different.
Oh, we really like this film. I think this finds him at his most really accessible
and
tender, warmly funny, and it's 3 installments. You got your father, then mother, then sister, brother for your 3 installments. And the characters are not connected, but he finds ways to have a through line, very interesting ways. But I read that the whole thing started out just because he wanted to write a project that would have Tom Waits play Adam Driver's father. And that's what we get in the opening segment, Father.
Yeah.
And Adam Driver is driving with his sister, Mayim Bialik.
And immediately you see the 2 of them in the front seat together. You're like, oh, they're
they look like siblings.
Yeah. They really do.
They really do. And so this is in New Jersey, rural New Jersey, very rural. And they're going to visit their dad, played by Tom Waits. And you can tell they are both just wild about it. They're so glad to be there. But it's really interesting because right away, we start to doubt. They talk to each other and, of course, to us in the car about all these things about their father. And then once they get there, it isn't long before we start doubting all those things that they've just told us about their father. Really?
Yeah.
Is that how he is? And that's fascinating.
It is.
As it goes on. And Adam Driver will bring up something that he's going to do, and Tom Waits will, no.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a reason why he doesn't want him to do that. So that's fascinating. But they're distant. They, like I said, they don't really want to be there. And I'm not sure Tom Waits really wants them to stay that long either.
No.
It's really, really interesting. And it's just the start of a movie talking about movies that come out in January. I think that's a perfect time for this movie because so many of us have just spent time with our family. Yep. And this movie, all 3 of these installments make you think, if they weren't my family, would I have hung out with them just now?
Yeah.
It's an interesting question.
I think each of these is very much about how little adult children know about their parents, how little they understand them as human beings and as people who have lives of their own.
Yeah.
And what I thought was interesting in the segments is that the adult children seem to realize they don't know anything about their parents, and yet they never ask their parents anything. They just get asked things. You know, I mean, the closest we get is somebody asked about their if they're on any medication.
You're right.
Which Tom Waits completely misconstrues. Like, oh, I'm not taking heroin.
I take drugs.
Yeah. It's just like,
yeah. And then the second segment is Mother, and that's Charlotte Rampling.
So great.
And they're in Paris. And no,
they're in Dublin.
I'm sorry, the third one's in Paris. They're in Dublin, and she is waiting for her 2 daughters to come for their annual visit. It seems like that's the only time they get together for tea. Yeah. And their daughters are played by Kate Blanchett and Vicky Krieps.
Yeah. So that's another trio right there. Like, wow.
And you talk about asking questions. Mom in this one is an author. And they find some of her books, but then they tell each other, oh, she doesn't like to talk about that.
Yeah, they're just sort of like reading the titles. Ooh,
yeah, and there are secrets, and Vicky Krieps' character is saying things about herself. They're like, is that true? So this is another one where it's very distant.
Yeah.
It's a very nice house. She puts out some nice cakes and tea, and it's all very proper. But again, do they really all want to be there? Do they really all hang out? And are they really interacting and saying anything that's really true? And so in that way, it's sad. That's the bittersweetness of the whole movie. And this is the time when you start to see how he connects all these segments with things like toast, tea, water, coffee. There's some skateboarders that you see through the whole time. There's a watch.
There's a color palette.
There's an English phrase called "Bob's your uncle" that I had to look up. I guess it means like, well, there it is then, like easily done. Like, well, you do this, do that, Bob's your uncle. So they use that. And also then the camera, you start to notice Jarmusch's camera lingers on things. Empty rooms, photographs of happier times. And then you notice no one's taking a photograph now. So what then I start to think about things that we don't even see. What happened all that time? They were happy, they're smiling, they're having a photo, they're not having it now. And so the things that are happening for me started to become equally as important. The things that didn't happen as the things that we are seeing. And then it goes into the third segment, Sister Brother, where twins, and they are played by India Moore and Luca Sabat, if I pronounced that right. And they are in Paris, and their parents have just perished in a plane crash. And they're having to come to this empty apartment, sort through memories and mementos. So, of course, they have a totally different approach now to their parents because they're gone. And I love the whole movie. I just love the whole movie. It's sad, but it's sweet. And like you said, tender, funny in that wry Jim Jarmusch way. But I think of all his films, it's one of the most accessible that I think people, just a random person that does maybe not even a fan of Jim Jarmusch as we are, to just see this and think, oh, wow, I really enjoyed that. It's quiet, insightful, introspective, and really, really like that. Don't know how much of a wide rollout it's getting, but he's another one of those filmmakers, and we talk about him all the time, that we want to see whatever he's doing. Whatever he's doing. There's always something.
He's in my top 5 all time.
He's
great. Filmmakers.
He's
I
great.
love everything
he does. He does music sometimes. We got to see him. He came here to Columbus and did a concert with I forget the guy he was with, but that was pretty fascinating too. So multi-talented guy. And this one right up there with his best in select theaters now. Check it out if you can. It's called Father, Mother, Sister, Brother.
Next is the directorial debut from Kristen Stewart. A woman, after an abusive childhood, escapes into competitive swimming, sexual experimentation, toxic relationships, and addiction before finding her voice through writing. It's the Chronology of Water.
Director. Kristen Stewart co-wrote it as well.
Yes. This is based on the memoir, The Chronology of Water, by Lydia Yuknavitch, who was one of Ken Kesey's Merry Pranksters. And you don't know that for a long time. It's Imogen Poots all day. She carries every frame of this movie, and she does it so magnificently. You've got a very short period of time where her character is young, like a child. The whole thing is told in just scraps and pieces and in close-up. I'm not sure there are any wide shots in this movie.
Very deliberate.
The framing is interesting, and there's a lot of just voiceover of Yuknavitch's poetry over the years, of certain passages from the book, very brief passages from the book. It's all sort of hallucinatory and incredibly intimate. And I think one of the reasons that the extreme close-up works the way it does is because it's a memoir, so it's everything that's happened in the past. It's all flashback, but the way it's shot is so immediate and intimate and right now that it gives the whole story a lot of immediacy. It's a difficult movie in some circumstances to watch because it has a great deal to do with Lydia overcoming or learning to live with abuse, her sexual and emotional abuse from the time she was very young. Which is another reason that the close-ups are so powerful. But Imogen Poots, I don't think I've ever seen her turn in a performance that wasn't really good. She's been in some movies that weren't great, but
no matter how much screen time she has.
She's always wonderful. Here, she's just ferocious. She is such raw rage. She's so self-destructive and wonderful in this movie. She carries it so well. And she is so full of rage that the rare moment of sincere vulnerability is just crushing to an audience. It's just heartbreaking. I can't get over her performance. I can't get over, particularly the way the film is shot, not to mention the subject matter, how hard this film must have been for her to make. And she just carries it brilliantly.
Yeah. And that's, that's ambitious choices to make for a first-time director.
Yes.
And Kristen Stewart. I mean, we've talked many times about how she's proven herself over and over as an actress since Twilight, making, challenging indie movies that have challenged her, and she's come out. She both Kristen Stewart and Robert Pattinson. That's beyond really conversation now. So she's moving into directing, and a challenging material, obviously, and the way she shoots it. So this is commendable. But maybe the first great performance of 2026, and the year is early, but you're right. Emma Jean Coots is always good.
She is always
cannot
good.
remember.
I do think. I mean, it's a tough movie to watch for sure, and I feel like there are times when you think this is more than we need. This is bordering on wallowing, in ugliness. But on the whole, I don't think that's what you'll come away with. It's really a beautiful film.
Yeah. So, but just be prepared.
Yes.
Obviously, for this sort of subject matter, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
So, if that's going to be triggering, obviously, totally understand. But well worth seeing if you're up for it, and that is in theaters now, called The Chronology of Water.
And in theaters, after a Palestinian teen gets swept up into a West Bank protest, his mother recounts the family's story of hope, courage, and relentless struggle that led to this fateful moment. In All That's Left of You.
Well, this is two of the executive producers are Javier Bardem and Mark Ruffalo, and it's another one that's told in chapters, in segments. And this was reviewed for us at MaddWolf.com by Rachel Willis, and she was really, really positive about it.
Yeah, she loved
very
it.
Positive.
She loved it, and it's it's this beautifully told sort of epic tale about family struggle in Palestine, about what it's like over the decades, over the generations, and it's really poetically told. It's really beautifully shot. The performances are amazing. It will break your heart, but it's a great film.
Yeah, another one that's going to have some tough subject matter, but there's been a lot of films on this subject for good reason, and many of them find a way to find their own niche, their own angle about it, because with an issue this huge and wide ranging, there are going to be many stories to tell, and this is definitely one, again, if you're up for it, worth seeking out. And seek out Rachel's full review at MaddWolf.com, but that is out now. It's in theaters as well,
It is in theaters.
And that's called All That's Left of You.
Let's go to VOD next for the story of a grieving mother haunted by the tragic loss of her daughter in a car accident that's left her abusive husband in a coma. Plagued by haunting visions, she grapples with the blurred lines between reality and nightmare in Sleepwalker.
Well, Brandon Thomas drew the short straw for us this week at MaddWolf.com. He reviewed this, and boy, did he not like it.
1.5 stars. Brandon's been writing with us for, I don't know, probably 8 years, 10 years, a long time. And I don't think he's ever given a movie 1.5 stars before. It's Hayden Panettiere, and just all of the performances are profoundly one-dimensional, just caricatures. And there is something, it's about trauma. And there's something to be mined there, certainly for horror movies. I mean, it's right fodder for horror movies, but it's not done well here. It's bad and boring.
And especially I think Brandon pointed out that if you're coming to this for horror, you're not going to find it.
No.
You're not going to find it. So all in all, not a good one, and not a recommendation at all. But Brandon's full review is up now at MaddWolf.com, and this one is streaming. So I guess, if you're of a mind, you can always stop it if you don't like it, or see it out if you end up enjoying it. But that's Sleepwalker, and it's out on VOD now. Okay, so the Schlocketeer still cleaning up his Christmas decorations, and can't make it this week, but he promises next week. We're going to hold him to that.
Yeah.
So speaking of next week, let's see. We're recording this on Friday. We're going to see this Monday, and we're so excited.
28 years later, The Bone Temple. Should we be excited? We were disappointed in 28 years later. However, Nia DaCosta directed this one, and it seems like it's about the two storylines that were by far the most interesting in the last one.
Right.
We're eager.
That's what you said about the first one, that it leaves you at a spot where, I can see that this next one could be the one. And so that's next week. Also, No Other Choice. This is one that we've seen. It's getting a bigger rollout now, as a lot of films that are in contention for awards are doing. Even though this one, No Other Choice, is definitely going to be up for foreign language film, international film, because it's very, very
Probably
worthwhile. Adapted screenplay. It's finally getting a big rollout next week.
So great. Dead Man's Wire.
Just
One
watched
other,
that.
we just saw The Return of Gus Van Sant.
Yeah, this is based on a true account that in the 70s that I totally missed. I had not heard about this at all. One called A Private Life.
New from Jodie Foster, always on board for whatever Jodie Foster is doing. And The Coral. So that means Ray Fiennes is going to have 2 movies next week.
Wow. Okay. One called Night Patrol.
Vampires and Justin Long.
Okay.
Also, Malderer from one of my favorite filmmakers, for Who Made Colbert. It's his new one. Yeah.
Ooh.
So it's exciting.
Okay. One called Obex, Obex.
And one called Resurrection, which Matt Weiner is going to write for us, and he's very excited.
All right. So as we get more and more quantity now here as we go into the year a little bit farther into January. So that's next week, though. What do you think, though, about this week? Primate, the chimp, gone nuts, or is this thing on? Greenland 2, new Jim Jarmusch. Let's talk. We're always up for that. You can find us anytime easily on the socials. MaddWolf Columbus. The main website is maddwolf.com. And love to get in touch. Until next week, enjoy the movies, and we will talk then with the Schlocketeer. Until then, she's Hope Madden.
He's George Wolf.
And this is the Screening Room Podcast.
See ya.
I do wish we could chat longer, but I'm having an old friend for dinner. Bye.